everybody pledge allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Our first appointment is Miss Olympio, United Methodist Church. Hi, Liz. Sure. You want to come sit with us? Yeah, I'll pull that in for you. Go ahead.
Well, could you leave it sort of
Just
this
like
way?
that, so I can see the
Donna tells me that the speech doesn't come past the air conditioner.
Okay.
How do you want this one?
This way.
Like this? Oh, I see, like this.
Okay. I'm gonna sit right next to me.
Okay, good. Well, I'm here tonight to pursue a little farther the assessor's decisions on some of the nonprofit organizations in town. And a recent letter from the Attorney General to this town quoted again the law. And I think maybe, are you all familiar with the situations where some of the nonprofit churches and historical society have been denied the nonprofit status because they did not fill out a certain form? Are you all familiar with that?
In fact, the church that just was involved with that was an issue with them, and then the Wakefield Historical Society got into trouble too.
Yes. Well,
Because of untimely filing.
right. Well, the law states that every religious, educational, charitable organization, grand veterans of foreign wars, and so, any other association shall annually, on or before April 15th, file a list of all real estate and personal property owned by them on which exemption from taxation is claimed. And it says that the assessors have this right that they may, by penalizing these groups for not obeying the law, they may take away their nonprofit status and they can declare them to be a regular building in town subject to taxation. So on a certain date, this assessment, two assessors could go down to our church, say, this is no longer a church. Been since 1894, it has been a church, but now, for about a month, it's not a church. Neither is a union church, neither is a historical society, neither is the Church of the Nazarene. Because the assessors chose this time around, there have been other or years when the certain groups have been late with filing a thing, but they've let it go, which is wise in my opinion. But anyway, this time they said no more of this stuff. We're going to put our foot down, and so it occurred to me that not is it morally unkind, but to my mind, it's physically impossible to put your name on a piece of paper and property of one kind becomes a property of another kind. I think perhaps there should be a penalty involved in this law, but I think it should be commensurate, like the punishment fits the crime, and also it should be assigned evenly. Now, when we first heard, and it is true that we should have known, because we filed that piece of paper in past years, but this year, the law also states that because of a misfortune or accident or mistake, an exemption may be granted for late filing. Our church first heard about it this year on April 20th, and we filed on April 20th. 5 days too late. Now, there are other groups that filed 40 days too late or haven't filed, but our 5 days is just as great a sin as the others. And I want to just mention quickly the misfortunes and the accidents. Last winter, our treasurer was in Milton Mills, fell and broke her knee, and she was put in a straight leg cast and she couldn't get into a car. In February, it was discovered that the surgery was faulty. They had to do it over again. So she had another straight leg cast and couldn't get into the car. At the same time, well, towards February more, Fred had decided to make a trip to Florida for a little while. He felt he'd been stretched too far, and he wanted a little rest and relaxation. And on the way down, he was given word that his mother was dying. Now, when he got there, he hadn't had a chance to see her at all, and I call that misfortune. We don't know where our notice from February ended up. The treasurer, of course, went in her home. We don't have anybody from church that goes and gets our mail every day, and maybe slipshod, but the people are mostly elderly, mostly incapacitated in some way, and the young ones are working and they don't get to the post office that often. But the law does state that violations may result in the assessors denying any exemptions anymore. The Attorney General wrote a recent letter to the town and suggests that you, as the selectmen, treat 2017 as a transition year to guarantee that everything is in full compliance in the future years, and guarantee to yourself that you have a full list of all of the organizations that have organized themselves as profitless. There are several new ones that I don't know if you know about, Friends of Wakefield and so on. And I think if thorough search was made, there would be groups that aren't even here, that don't know a thing about the whole thing. I know ignorance of the law is no excuse, but that it would be very discriminatory towards them if they aren't reclassified in any way, but some of us are. The reason that I'm concerned about this is that I know you've heard about what does closing a church do to a community. We all know how churches act. But there's one thing that concerns me and would concern a great many people, or they should know about it. And that is the fact that if the Methodist church goes down, the Hazel McBrien Nursery School goes with it. We have been housing them at cost. We take some money from them for heat and stuff, because we wouldn't have to heat that church except on Sunday morning. But with them in there, it's heated the rest of the week as well. And the kids, how many years have the McBrien School been in effect?
Been there?
No, well, just been in
60-some-odd years.
67 years, okay, so that would be simply, as we got to work, just in a letter, too bad, no more. We could give them a letter, too bad, no more, but we're not going to do it that way if we have to. We're going to try everything. We even have a private account established by 3 of our members, one of which died recently, for tuition, in case any of those kids' parents can't make the tuition. And it's hard with more than one child. There's the 3-year-olds in the morning and 4-year-olds in the afternoon. And all the records show that children with a little prior education do better when they get to school. But so that is my concern at the moment. And also, I don't know if you know, unless you read the last paragraph of my letter, but case law is already established in this law. And you must know, you all have records, that it's unconstitutional on the face of it. And beyond that, it's almost insane. You cannot change a church into a private building with the stroke of a pen. So, anyway, the case law is, this happened to another group in another town in New Hampshire. The group is called C period, H period, R period, I period, S period, T period. And the judge's decision is on file now, that the various parties should not have been denied their privileges. And that's file 122, New Hampshire 982. And so that's, I'm asking if the assessors would reconsider. I think if you can keep peace in a town, it's better than all these small fights that arise sometimes. And anybody that does reconsider usually looks as if they have been thinking about it and have found out some things they didn't know before. And so now they're going to let it go. And it isn't that you're going to be losing anything, because you weren't getting it before. It hasn't been declared a taxable situation before. So I believe your thoughts.
I'm not quite understanding what's really going on. Did the assessors assess the church and charge them because they didn't meet their...
There were 4 entities out of all the reminder letters that they sent that did not meet the requirement, and the one thing the Attorney General didn't know is that they had a transition year in 2013. The Methodist Church did not file their A9 in 2013 at all, and in July of 2013, the assessing board wrote the church a letter and told them they were going to put the property back on the tax rolls, and then never did. And so the assessing board feels like the church got its transition year in 2013, and the reminders were sent out, and they just didn't file again.
Because it was such a small church, nobody is responsible for anything, except maybe the minister. And our minister happens to not live in town, he's over in Meredith, and he's only here.
But it's not fair to the other 14 entities that have to file on time to let one not. And
So
that's
what
how the assessing
happens,
board.
what happens that they
The appeal is to
didn't
the,
file? I mean, do they get, is it a fine
no, they get charged taxes on the assessed value of the building.
of the building?
They're
Oh, so it
taxed.
went from 0 to 25 overnight?
Right. And this is the letter that we have.
What church are we talking about?
I'm the Methodist.
Which one's that?
Down here.
The one right there across the old
Yeah,
school?
Rochester
school
Street,
road?
yeah.
Yeah,
The one with the nursery school.
And when the McBrien School had to leave this building, they always met downstairs in the old jail. And when they started remodeling, they were going to use the jail for an office. So they had no place to go, and they were looking everywhere and everywhere. Ours was the only group that said, come to us. These are not, they know we got.
Okay, so
But I don't
what do we
expect you.
do?
Did you read that
The
note?
board, the
Oh, you read
BTLA is the appellate board for this.
Read this note? I don't know.
What is it?
Yeah.
I don't expect you to decide tonight.
I understand that, Liz, and we'll talk about it,
Okay.
and we'll see what happens. Do you know more about this? I mean, what do we do?
We don't have jurisdiction over the assessors.
I don't think we can do it.
The appeal from a decision of the Board of Assessors, because you have an elected Board of Assessors this time, is to the BTLA or Superior Court.
Even if we file late in any mortgage program or car payment or house payment, there's always a grace period on the day your payment is due.
2013 was your grace period. You did not file at all and
I'm
were
not talking
not
about
taxed.
I'm not talking about the exemption now. I'm talking about payment. And a grace period of 5 days, literally 5 days, out of time.
Well, my heart's for you, but I mean, I don't know much about it, Liz. And for what I understand, we're kind of tied at the moment. We have to let the assessing board handle that,
Because
correct?
they're elected.
Because they're
We
an
have
elected
no
position.
jurisdiction over them any more than the town board.
Do you understand that, Freddie? You're with her, right? You're doing this? So do you understand what we're saying? Is, I mean, I don't, 5 days to me, and
No,
I think that's kind of a power wash.
Yeah, right, yeah. But
I would file with the Board of Tax and Land Appeals at $65 to file
I would.
and make a case to them.
And who is that?
Board of Tax and Land Appeals.
Did you hear that, Liz?
Do you need the paperwork? Because I printed it off for you.
Oh, all right.
I wonder how it would be for all four groups.
Same thing. If they all got
Do it all at once, if there's one fee of $65.
No.
individual.
Individual.
Because the case, I mean, in this case, there was a treasurer that got her, the treasurer had never signed the A9 before. It was always Mr. Galbraith. Is that Gilbranson. He is the one that signed for the last 3 or 4 years.
Oh, yes.
So let's put a reminder up on the board for April 1st to file, yeah.
Well, and that would be because I'm next door.
Right.
And Cindy always sends reminders, which she doesn't have to do.
Sure.
Right, but we didn't get the reminder and we didn't get the form itself.
Yeah.
And when I wrote and asked Cindy for copies of what had gone on, she said, I'll mail it out today, which was a Friday. And we both, I think, thought it was like getting the next day. And it was a week, it was a whole week for forms to come from here to there.
Yeah.
And then she said,
Right.
we've been having a lot of trouble with the post office.
Absolutely.
And this was from somebody in San Bernardino to somebody in San Bernardino, so there's no town.
They send it. Oh, yes, they send it to Manchester.
You can't stamp it and put it in the right bin.
They don't do that. They put it in the bag, and the bag gets picked up and goes to Manchester. Because I've asked about that.
Yeah, no more unstamped letters going into town anymore, they all have to be stamped.
So there's nothing, we heard the story, and that's as far as.
As far as we can go.
Okay. Thanks, Liz. Thanks for me. Public comment?
It was really an information comment. I just, for the public's edification, I thought maybe we'd mention what RSA covers this issue.
It would be under Title V, Taxation, Chapter 76, and theirs falls under 7616A.
7223C is the A9 form
Yep.
that allows them to file as a nonprofit and tax exempt. It's 72
Colon 23.
23-c.
So
That's
it's
the
right
form.
Can I?
Yeah.
Is this public comment right now? It sounds like the law needs to be adjusted in this circumstance. I don't really know why a church, that's always been a church, has to keep refiling over and over in this circumstance.
Because it's not just churches, it's the Legion, it's the Lions Club, it's any nonprofit organization that is looking to be exempt from taxes. It's to protect the rest of the taxpaying public to make sure that you meet that requirement every year so that nobody is unfairly taxed if a church becomes not a church anymore. Say in a situation where the Catholic Church moves out and is renting the building to a profit organization, then it doesn't meet, the church no longer meets the tax exempt status. So every year you have to say, yes, we're still tax exempt, we're still a church, we're still the Legion, we're still the Lions Club, we're still doing nonprofit work, and you have to prove that you're doing that. And that protects the rest of the taxpayers from taking the burden of the taxes on them.
Just for more information for the public, what actually has to happen? What is the church's responsibility at that April 1st? They have to fill out a
April
form?
15th.
Is it form?
It is a
It's an
form.
A9 form.
That's
And
it.
Needs to be in by the 15th of April.
So that form is the linchpin to the issue here. The form was not sent in, and now the state's saying, well, you're no longer a nonprofit.
Right, and you can send it in anytime after January 1st. So many organizations do that when they're doing their tax documents or their
Just has to be
year-end
in by the
dates.
15th.
It has to be in by April 15th.
So it's 4 months that they have to file a form to be exempt.
And obviously, if you wait until April to file and there's a misfortune, accident, illness, injury, then
The
it
burden goes
can
on, yeah.
unfortunately affect you.
But they have a method, if that does happen, you can appeal. And you appeal it and they fix it.
Right. And they have gone before the assessing board with their appeal.
I'm just trying to think of a better way. A church has to do tax forms, right? I mean, you have to fill something out for taxes. I'm wondering if there's a way to attach.
Yes, they
That
also have to
process.
file a charitable organization financial statement
Yeah.
under 7223 Roman numeral 6.
But you always do that. I'm just thinking, is there just an easier way?
Well-
That's all. I'm
Well,
just-
but it's volunteers. I'm sure Jan has, with the congregational church, all kinds of, problems that she was faced with, and the last thing that she could, she could tell you better herself.
It's like you said, it's volunteers, and when nobody's a professional in doing it, you don't recall everything, every step. And I understand.
But the laws also clearly states that you write a little report along with that, with the tax report, that it was an accident or a misfortune or something like that, it can be granted.
Through the assessors or through the
Through
state?
the assessors.
Through the assessors.
Or
The
if-
BTLA
So just so I
can-
understand, they did go to the assessors and did an appeal, and the denied?
Yes.
The assessing board, our board, denied them to be a church.
So the history of this is, no, nobody's denying that they're
No,
a
but I
church.
mean-
They're denying their tax exempt status because they did not file the 8-9. Nobody is taking their church status away from them. They're just removing their tax exempt status for this year. And they can file again next year and get it.
They just had to pay the $2,500 this year.
Yes.
Next year, they
And
went.
there's a whole backstory to this. In 2013, we were certified by the Department of Revenue Administration. They come out and certify us every 5 years, and for our assessing department.
Go ahead. I'm sorry for the interruption.
Okay, so every 5 years, the Department of Revenue Administration comes out and looks at every town's assessing department and certifies them, and basically does an audit. It pulls a number of veterans exemptions, a number of tax credits, and one of the things they look at is these A9s, because they want to make sure that towns are being scrupulous about, are these truly exempt properties? So in 2013 was our last certification, and we were written up. Our assessing board was written up because the Methodist Church never filed it. The Methodist Church was actually one of the ones that did not file in 2013. And not only did they not file late, they never filed at all. And the assessing board followed up in July 2013 with a letter saying, we're sorry, but you've never filed. It was due April 15th. It's now July. We're going to tax you. And then the assessors forgot to put it back on the tax rolls. So the church should have paid in 2013 for the same mistake and did not. And that's why the assessors are looking at this as, we gave you a transition year. We don't want to run afoul of the DRA again, and our assessors don't want to be written up in an audit for the same thing, 2 certifications in a row. We don't want to affect this is about how the taxpayers believe we're assessing property, and if we just let things go,
Explained it well. You did very good.
then we don't meet our certifications. So the assessing board, and I hate to speak for them because they're perfectly capable of speaking for themselves, but I did the research on this. The assessing board considered all these things, and their thing is that we had a transition year. We've had 5 transition years from our last certification in 2013 when we were cited for the same thing for the same church. And 5 years later, in 2018, we'll be certified again, and this will be the look back year in 17.
That's in a standard way years come and go, but I think that the fact that we had both an accident and a misfortune at the same time period, that these notices were mailed somewhere, should give us an answer.
Well, we're not required to even do the notice.
No, I know.
That's just an added, it went to P.O. Box 118, Sanfordville, New Hampshire, 03872.
Is that your mailbox, Fred?
And my understanding from this, and I don't really want to get into people's personal
No,
things,
you
but
don't
my
either.
understanding from the assessing board was that Mr. Branson's mother died. He was back in town by March 14th. So it was a whole 30 days, and the assessing board took that into consideration. It was.
Did you mess up, Fred? Did you mess up?
He's the person that signed the last 3. The treasurer never signed an A9.
Janet has some further comment on the law. It's the selectmen have the power.
She's a Unity Congregational Church.
Okay, go ahead, you can speak.
So stand over.
You can stand anywhere else.
Okay. I'm Janet Hotchkiss. I'm treasurer of Union Congregational Church in Union, New Hampshire. This past year was a very difficult year for me. My husband's being treated for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma from his service in Vietnam, and it's treatable but not curable. I came down with pneumonia in December. 4 of our 6 children came up with their husbands and wives, and 13 of our 16 grandchildren in December and January. I did not recover as fast as I should have because I also am a cancer survivor. Got through with the cancer, and then in March I came down with the flu. Now I will tell you all that I've had the flu shot and I've had the pneumonia shot. Now that I've said that, I came down with pneumonia and the flu. I was out for 10 days out from the flu, just getting back to the church, and my daughter-in-law in New York, and my son is stationed at West Point, his mother was dying in Ireland. So I went down to New York for the month of April and did not get back till May to take care of my grandchildren down there while she was over there, so my son could continue at West Point. That has been my winter. Probably not the best winter in the world, and then periodically we made trips over to Dartmouth and back from here. Having said that, I brought the checkbook home and I did some things online with the checkbook for the church, okay? But that's about all I could do. Our mailbox goes to P.O. Box 233, I will tell you that. I spoke with Cindy Bickford when I got back and I explained what happened. And she said, well, that's not been a good winter for you. And I said, no, it's not. And I pride myself on being very, very good about submitting paperwork and paying bills. We also have an aging congregation, and as I mentioned to Fred, the average age in our congregation is probably 98. I'm only kidding. So, there's no one else that can do this. I know that there's no one else that can do this job because I've done it now for 7 years. But this year was not a year that I'd like to repeat. The Session Board met on Thursday, June 22nd. I know that because I was on a bus on the way to Boston to take a train down to New York because my son's daycare for his children at West Point was closed for a week and a half. So I again went back to New York. But when I came back in May, I did file my papers with Cindy Bickford and I did send in my letter. I told her I couldn't appear in person, on the 22nd because the board was going to meet at 8 o'clock. And they only meet once a month, is that correct? Yeah, okay. So I did a little bit of research. To answer your question, RSA 7223-C is the annual list. Every religious, educational, and charitable organization, Grange, the Veterans of Veteran Wars, the American Legion, the Disabled American Veterans, the American National Red Cross, and any other National Veterans Association shall annually honor before April 15th, file a list of all real estate and personal property owned by them on which exemption from taxation is claimed upon a form prescribed and provided by the Board of Tax and Land Appeals, with the selectmen or assessors of the place where such real estate and personal property are taxable, okay? So it's with the selectmen or assessors. If any such organization or corporation shall willfully neglect or refuse to file such list upon request, therefore, the selectmen may deny the exemption. If any organization otherwise qualified to receive an exemption shall satisfy the selectmen or assessors that they were prevented by accident, mistake, or misfortune from filing an application on or before April 15th, the officials may receive the application at a later date and grant an exemption thereunder for that year, but no such application shall be received or exemption granted after the local tax rate has been approved for that year. I believe the town of Wakefield approves it in October. Okay, well, we can check that. Number 2, city assessors, boards of selectmen, and other officials having power to act under the provisions of this chapter. Okay, city assessors, board of selectmen, and other officials having power to act under the provisions of this chapter to grant or deny tax exemptions to religious, educational, and charitable organizations shall have the authority to request such materials concerning the organization seeking exemption, including its organizational documents, nature of membership, functions, property, and the nature of that property, and such other information as shall be reasonably required to make determinations of exemption of property under this chapter. Such information shall be provided within 30 days of a written request. Failure to provide information requested shall result in a denial of exemption unless it is found that such requests were unreasonable. And I just want to say that churches, and Fred and I have talked about this, but churches do provide great community service. Here in the town of Wakefield, where there's not an abundance of money, okay, there was a need to restore some of our buildings, and the Grange was one. And we did not seek town money. We've spoken with Teresa Williams, okay, and we chose to restore the Grange and put it back for the public use. We currently have brought the VFW auxiliary back from Milton, okay? It could not pay the rent that the Greater Wakefield Resource Center was charging them. They meet with us, brought us, okay? And what they They did some landscaping, to the left of the Grange, but they meet with us gratis, as does TOPS and as does AA. These are services that are provided to the community and to the people in the greater Wakefield area at large. These are services that people feel free to come to a church for, but they would not necessarily go to the town for. We also, greatly support, as does the Methodist Church, the Wakefield Food Pantry, and we certainly, as Fred and I discussed, our minister and our board of diaconate, have taken it upon themselves through the church membership to pay bills for people who really are struggling in the community. Sometimes people are very proud and they won't go on public assistance. And I know you're going to argue that there are people on public assistance that don't belong here, but we too know of people that really could use a little extra help, and so the churches have provided for that. I'd like you to take that into consideration, before making your decision. This was a very bad year for me. I have 3 children who are Iraqi war veterans, 2 sons and a daughter. I have a husband who's a Vietnam veteran. We brought the VFW back into Milton. I spoke with Buddy Nichols and Celeste Nichols, and their meeting brought us, I think this is what a good community is. This is a community that I want to live in. This is a community where I want to be a part of, and I just ask that you take that into consideration in your private meetings.
We will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment.
Good evening, John Hotchkiss. Point of question for Wakefield. If someone files for an abatement, not an exemption, abatement, who has the final say? Is it the Board of Assessors or the Selectmen? Thank you.
You're welcome. Tom, you want a question?
This sounds to me like a problem that's still looking for a solution, but still looking for a problem. What's the incidence of phony, profit things, particularly things like American Legion, Knights of Columbus, American Cancer Society, churches, and so forth. This sounds like it goes back to the old requirement to file an inventory. You used to have to do that as an individual. You had to file an personal inventory by your first. The state got rid of that. A lot of states had that, and they got rid of it because it hardly made any sense anymore. I mean, the availability to know whether somebody has something or not. It seems to me it should really be turned around. But if you find that an institution has misrepresented that they're a nonprofit organization, then you should have the ability to prosecute them for doing that. But otherwise, if somebody files a thing and they file with the Secretary of State every year, which I believe that's under the corporate requirement to do that if they're a corporation, and I don't see why they should be pestered with that. And I'm speaking to the legislators here. This is something that really needs a hard look at. But I think it's just the best. I wouldn't be surprised if this dates back to when you used to have personal inventories. You were required to file personal.
Thanks for comment. Anybody else?
Yes,
Quick comment?
I have a question.
Okay.
Can I ask you for a copy of that thing you gave us? Well, if you come on top of it, okay?
I only made 1 copy because there's only one.
Yeah.
on here.
She can. All right, we're gonna move on so we can get through our thing, and then we got another public comment section coming up, so you're welcome to add to it, okay? Unfinished business, we've got the auction for the tax acquired property. Is this just giving the okay for it to be auctioned? Is that what this is about?
We've already given their approval for the auction, it's being advertised, it's on the website, and basically he needs your power of attorney to conduct the auction. So, yeah.
Yeah, so do you want to make a motion to give that?
Rick Sager?
Yep.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Sure.
All in favor to give Rick Sager power of attorney for the auction?
Does it specify who it is?
It's got the 7 properties that are being auctioned on there.
Only for these purposes.
Correct. So, as for Rick having the power of attorney to hold the auction and auction off these tax acquired properties, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Tax inquired, new business, we got tax inquired property on Bedrock Road.
So this brought up a interesting issue for me. We have, in the last couple of years, taken some tax deeded property that has association fees associated with them. And I know that it's Greenville's or Wakefield's past practice to hold tax deeded properties for the additional 3 years. So we can take it by tax deed in 3 years of non-payment of taxes, and then you wait an additional 6 years. So it's 6 years, or additional 3 years. So it's 6 years before you usually auction off the property. I'd like the board to consider sending the 90-day letter. So that's not a requirement of law. You can send the last legal owner of the property a letter giving them 90 days to redeem the property, and then include it in each year's auction. And I'd like the board to consider doing that for the properties that have fees associated with them, so that the town doesn't have to pay association fees for 3 years until we deed it. This is similar, so this is similar to in other towns. Towns take mobile homes, for example. So we tax deed a mobile home, and if a town tax deeds a mobile home, it has to pay the park rent. So you might have $200 or $300 a month in park rent. If the town held that for 3 years, you would have to pay that $200, $300 every month for the 3 years that you held it. So the towns have said, we understand we have to tax deed property if people don't pay their taxes for 3 years, but we don't have to hold it an additional 3 years. We have to meet the letter of the law, which is send the
So during
last
certain
legal-
cases, you're suggesting that we make that
anything that had a fee.
at a fee.
Yeah, and then I'm not in favor of selling people's property out front. If they clearly want to redeem and they need another 3 months to come up with the money, or 6 months, whatever they need, then the town certainly can work with them, but you'll at least get their notice of redemption and know that they are interested. But in a lot of cases, and at least this has been my experience, in a lot of cases, the people are not interested in redeeming, or know they're not going to be able to redeem, and just write a letter that says, I've moved to New York and I'm not interested, and then you won't have to pay the association fee.
Because we take it instantly and
You
auction
put it in the
there.
next auction.
Yeah.
I don't want to hold an auction every month that properties come off of it, because that's very labor intensive and costly, but the next time you hold an auction, you would put any of those properties.
But during that time, you would pay the fees.
Yeah,
That's live, that's.
We have to. I think that's only fair, that we be a good neighbor. You know, we had one that we budgeted, I think, $200, and it went up to $300 this year. We don't have the money for that, but we paid it because it's for the upkeep of the roads, and, you know, just because it's the town and we're not driving out there doesn't mean we shouldn't be a good neighbor. And actually, that association tried to get us to pay, what was it, 10 years? 10 years of back association fees, because the owner had never paid association fees. And we can't pay the arrearage, and we're not required to pay the arrearage, but certainly we're going to pay what we owe in the years we owe it.
Is this something that we decide right now? or is-
No, you can take it under advisement, but if you
I think it sounds like a good idea.
if you have more questions, and, you know, we can do it and do it on a per case basis, and work with the owners on a per case basis.
We
But
take a look.
This is from 2015, this is the same piece of property on this email.
yeah, this property was taken, was it November or December of 15? And they've been using it,
So it's coming up in anyways for 3 years.
so it wouldn't be until the end of next year.
Yeah. So
Until next year. But this is just an example of one. We didn't know the association fee was going to go up, and we have a couple of these that we own right now that we've been paying association fees on.
well, if we own a property, the association should be paid.
I
I'm not
agree.
saying past ones, but
No.
for the time that we owe it, it should be correct, because it does,
Absolutely.
it affects, you want to be a good neighbor.
Yeah.
But so no notification, they haven't come back and said how much property.
They have already approached us about redeeming this one today, as a matter of fact. They would like to redeem it in, well, they were starting on August 1st or September 1st, and now they're looking at the possibility of the end of November.
we'll probably be hearing that too.
Potentially.
Can I ask a question? The trailer eventually is sold to somebody, if you pay, say, 3 months of the rent on the land, when they buy it, can you attach those figures to that purchase?
No, you can't put that on a new owner because they didn't accrue the park rent. And honestly, in the town I came from, when the town took it by tax deed, they removed it and demoed it and took it off the lot. So they didn't have, basically what would happen is the town would tax deed it. They would approach the old owner about purchasing or making, in the town I came from, the Board of Selectmen has the authority to make payment plans, and we had payment plans. Once it deeds, it leaves the tax collector's jurisdiction and it comes to the Board of Selectmen and they can make a payment plan. So at any given time, I was overseeing 9 or 10 payment plans as well. But if it does tax deed, then basically they'd give them a chance to redeem it for that 90 days. If they did not want it, they would evict them and pay the park rent for however many months and then demolish the mobile home and remove it from the park. But that town had 3 parks with over 600 mobile homes. It was about a third of the assessed value in the town, and out of all of the past due taxes and deedable property, 70% of it was in mobile homes. So what was happening was, because people in mobile homes knew they wouldn't be tax deeded, they hadn't tax deeded any mobile homes for 12 years. There were people that literally had not paid their taxes. They bought the place 12 years ago and had never paid taxes because they knew they didn't have to. And the town had to do something drastic to get people to start paying their taxes.
Okay, so we'll keep that on your advisement, and when that comes up, we'll address that, I guess, when it happens. We'll move on to something I ain't quite sure I ever heard of, but a raffle permit. We have such a thing?
We're required to, actually, under statute.
Really?
Yeah.
To have somebody that wants to do a fundraiser.
Yes.
Get a permit. Okay.
It's a cash fundraiser, that's why it's different.
So
And they
it-
require
yeah,
people under.
Any raffle.
they
No,
require
not
people-
required.
Only cash or not?
Any raffle.
Really?
The statute says any raffle. The select board,
We at the select board have to give them permission to do that.
they're supposed to make application to
Do we have
the
an
board of
application?
selectmen. I have made an application, you did not have one.
I've never heard of
But
such a thing.
We had a letter, so I consider this the application.
Okay.
And then we did up a raffle permit form for you to sign, and
Does it have a expiration date? Is it 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, how long is
Well, they're not
I would
going
say
to,
whatever their dates are.
they're not going to do it.
Most of
until
them
they raise-
have a date, a rain date.
Well, they need to raise so much money
it?
to pay for it.
Doesn't end
before
until they
do
sell all 600 of their tickets.
Yeah, because the RSA have an end date.
It does not, you can put an end date if you want, but I think this is more about you knowing about it, and so that if somebody calls the police department and says, I got a call, is this a scam? We can notify the police department, this is not a
And that's a
scam.
great
There are gonna be
information.
people in town soliciting money, it's a bona fide organization, contribute or don't contribute, but it is a bona fide, and they have a raffle permit with the town. That's,
That's a
But
great information.
does that cover St. Joseph's and Ossipee? Or do they have to,
they should get one from Ospey.
right,
You
but
can't,
in here, he includes St. Joseph's.
he needs to go to Ospey, because you don't have any jurisdiction over Ospey.
Right.
Right, so do we have any issues about not giving it to them?
She says it'll,
Do you, Lino?
she says it'll benefit St. Joseph's.
Right.
It doesn't say there.
Yeah.
If they're gonna sell raffle tickets at St. Joseph's and Ospey, then they should
I would
approach the
assume they
Ospey
better.
Selectmen.
Is he here this evening?
Excuse me?
I think he's here.
No, he's not.
I would just put an end date on it, whether it just be a year or something,
Okay.
just so it's not in perpetuity.
So just put an expiration date of July 31st, 2018.
Yeah.
Your RSA says it will expire, the permit will expire at the time of the drawing.
And they
So,
tell you the drawing is,
they're not telling you when it is, because they have to sell 600. Yeah.
I think a year is more than enough.
I don't know if you can, I think you can put I don't think you can make the law any less stringent, but I think you can put a more stringent requirement on it if it's your permit.
Right.
I don't think we need to put any rules on it. I mean, I understand what you said, and that makes perfect sense, that we know about it, so that if somebody calls and wants to think that they were being scammed, you can tell them, no, it's a legitimate thing.
Yeah.
But to give somebody, I mean, you're saying it's the rule, that's fine, but I mean, give somebody a permit for a church to do a raffle, my goodness, where are we going with this?
It's always good.
I know, I just never realized it, so.
A lot of people don't know. And a lot of towns don't know. When they approached Michelle and Toni, they didn't know. I only knew because I had these in other towns. So,
But, I mean, I'm okay with it.
You know, what's the person's name at the bottom in the telephone number? Who's that?
It's the lady that brought it in.
Liz Burdish, something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care if you want to go the year's date or whatever and ask them to come in a year. If they haven't done it, just come in and say that they
we
still
can
haven't
type
filled
that
it.
in the bottom, expires. If
Yeah,
that's okay with you guys, if you want to sign the
Yeah.
permit for tonight so we can get it out to her, and we'll just put an expiration, it expires July 31st, 2018. We can add that with the typewriter.
Motion to accept the raffle permit with an expiration date for July 31st of 2018.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Well, here's the application right there. I just, sometimes it's funny.
Other than adding an expiration date, are you guys okay with those basic forms? I stole them from another town
Yeah,
and
we don't need to.
Wakefieldized them.
We don't got to reinvent the wheel.
Mr. Chairman, can I have a clarification?
Yes, you may.
Can you just for the public tell is what RSA governs that and how much is the permit?
There is no charge for the permit, and it's RSA 287-A.
Thank you.
You're welcome. New business, public works, mutual aid program.
So I don't know if you remember, but when Lee was in one of the times, we talked about how the fire department and police department have mutual aid. It's a common occurrence, it's a regular thing, and that there is a public works mutual aid program. I've used this in other towns. It's especially helpful. I think we all saw what Grafton faced with the flooding from the July 1st rainstorm that none of us had. They lost roads, they lost buildings, they had people trapped. This was a perfect example where a small part of the state was affected by a catastrophic event, and other parts of this town or other parts of the state were not and could lend a hand with loaders, bucket trucks, whatever they needed, building inspectors in case buildings needed to be condemned. So the mutual aid program is modeled after the mutual aid program that police and firefighters have used for many, many years. It's just for public works.
So it's a tool.
Right.
It is. It's a tool for, again, when there's catastrophic losses and other parts of the state. You know, obviously, if the whole state is affected, then nobody can come to our aid except for out-of-state people, FEMA workers. But in the event where there is a catastrophic loss that not the entire state is affected by, when I worked in Allenstown, we had flooding. We used mutual aid to get building inspectors. We had 32 buildings that needed to be condemned. We couldn't get FEMA money until we actually condemned them, so we used mutual aid system to bring building inspectors from Bedford and Bow up to help us condemn the buildings and get these people money and get they called it mud out. You know, you have to do everything. You have to shut off the electricity, you have to clean it out, you have to get the electricity turned back on. So
Does this cost?
it doesn't cost us to belong to, but if we were to get a building inspector under the mutual aid, then we agree to pay that town for that service, and vice versa. If we send a building inspector or we send a guy with a trailer and a couple of laborers to another town, and we can bill what it costs our town, which is a little different than the fire and police.
So
They don't bill.
are we just a certain town partners, like the Carroll County partners, or is for every one of these towns that could be somewhere in Keene?
Yeah, and what they do, and you choose if you want to provide the aid. So, you know,
Oh,
they
okay.
put out a
They don't-
thing.
It's not required.
No, they put out a thing on it, there's a login, it's an email string of all the public work directors, and, you know, Grafton County said, hey, I need a loader for 2 days with a guy who hasn't been up for the last 3 days. Anybody out there can provide that. If Lee has a spare guy and he wants to, he would come to you guys, say, hey, I'm gonna send a guy to Holderness for 2 days, we'll bill him at the end, and you guys decide whether that's in our best interest or not. And again, it is reciprocal. If we belong to this, we can get aid too.
Decent too, you think?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we hastily become part of the Good Neighbor Program with our other towns and become part of the mutual aid program.
I will agree. As the board, all in favor?
Aye.
You want to authorize the chairman to sign?
Make a motion that we
Yeah.
okay. Oh, we don't need.
Okay, Stratford County, Stratford Regional Planning Commission.
Where did Steve go?
No.
Why, is he supposed to speak on that? Is it in one?
Maybe. Well, do you have any, what is it about? Is he coming back? Is he speaking on this?
Yeah.
Stephen,
Yes?
are you talking on the Regional Planning Commission subject there? Was you planning on it?
No? I don't know nothing about it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move to appoint Steve Brown to another segment. It doesn't say how many years it is, to the Stratford Metropolitan Planning Organization.
I second that.
And I would also like to, let's finish that, because I have an alternate that we want to do.
Okay.
We'll finish that up.
In as the board, all in favor to place Steve on that?
Aye.
Okay.
And I also move Mr. Ralph Fogg to be the alternate.
Really?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
There you
gentlemen.
go.
Oh, well, yeah.
I would like that.
Good luck.
Really?
All right, we're going to go into the expenditures. We have an expenditure request form for $3,375 for the Province Lake Association. This comes out of the Invasive Species Fund. Do I have a motion to accept, to pay that out?
So, make that motion.
And a second?
We
Second?
already agreed to this, right?
Yep, this is all agreed, this is just a payout, it's capital reserve
These have
fund.
already been paid, it's just us refunding
Yeah.
the general fund from the capital reserve fund.
All in favor to pay the $33.75? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I have a invasive species request for $3,875 from Level Lake Association. Do I have a motion on the table to accept that?
So moved.
Second?
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We have a current expenditure, capital reserve expenditure from BLIMP, which is Balch Lake, I'm assuming,
Improvement Association.
$7,500 invasive species account. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Oh, abstain. I have a GWRC
Greater Wakefield Resource Center.
Resource Center. They're requesting the $1,400 out of their $5,000 balance. First payment for the painting of the building. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I have a capital expenditure for the public safety building, phase 2, for $19.50. And that's just advertisement to our dear friend, the Independent. Do I have a motion
Now what
to
that's
accept
for.
that?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Pick whatever you want. Tony.
Okay. Very good. Great. Correspondence. I have a Tim Crafton, an abatement on a dog license, fines. So I'm assuming this guy got fined because he didn't license his dog and he's asking for an abatement. Is that what it's about?
Yes.
So his reasoning is that he wasn't able to get the shots on time to case them, because you need the shot.
They have puppies.
Yeah, so you need shots
Would have been,
to go through the process.
He wants till the end of July before I think the puppies get weaned by the end of
Right.
July and then.
So he can't register them anyway because he can't get, they won't be able to take the
He
baby
doesn't
shots and all that
he
stuff.
doesn't
It's
have
not
the
about
baby
money,
certificate.
it's just about timing.
Yeah, he'll pay for the licensing, he just would like you to waive the $25 fine because he doesn't want to get the mother rabies shot,
Correct.
glove, she's
And
not.
I feel that that's a legitimate excuse by all means. So, do I have a motion on the table to accept it? I will second that. Want to discuss it anymore, Lino?
Is this something that you've got, that this board has done in the past?
No, it's usually they're asking because they don't want to pay it or they haven't got the money. This guy's really not saying he doesn't want to pay it, he's just, he can't get a license until the dog's shown rabies certificates, and you can't show rabies certificates if they're just puppies. Or the mother's just had the puppy, so I'd say it would be like going to the hospital. You don't make it in, I mean, all we're doing is granting him extension without paying the fine. He's going to pay the license fee. And I would assume he must be going to have to pay for an extra few of them because he's got puppies.
You
So,
know, I don't think you can register the puppies until they're like 7 weeks old or something, because you've got to get them shots too. and
yeah, neutered or whatever.
Probably become the new owner's problem.
Yeah,
yeah.
any other questions, ma'am?
No, just to make sure that we're clear on the motion, that they're just going to extend
Just extending to the
extending.
July.
because of circumstances beyond his control.
And I'd make the date certain. I'd
What's
say
the
you're
date that
extending
he
it
said?
to July
He
31st.
said July 31st, so we'll make it July
It
31st.
is the 31st.
And ask if he's
Yeah,
on
that's a
the
Monday, so.
end of July.
Yep, you good with that?
As long as you put a date on it,
Yep.
July 31st or.
I'm good with that, July 31st. All in favor?
Aye.
Primex, contribution assurance program.
So I think you guys know that last year, the property liability trust went away, so we couldn't insure anymore with them. Our workers' comp and unemployment are right now with Primex. Our property liability insurance is with Travelers. There is a new insurance, a municipal insurance compensation group in the works right now with Davis and Toll and the Lawson Group in Concord. They're in the study stages. As a matter of fact, I have been attending their meetings because I think it's important that Primex have some kind of competition in the state. Whether we choose to insure with this new group or not, I think it's not in any of the municipalities' best interest to only have one seller of municipal insurance in the state. And there are private carriers that will write insurance, but a lot of towns are finding that they can't. Like if they own a dam, Travelers will not cover you unless you cover all the downstream properties from that dam, if the town owns a dam. And there's other things they won't cover. I think some watercraft, like if a fire department owns a hydrofoil using on Winnipesaukee, there's certain things that Travelers doesn't like to cover, whereas property liability, insurance trust, and Primex have been the preeminent municipal carriers of insurance for at least since the 70s, maybe early 80s. So Primex is offering us workers' compensation insurance with a locked-in rate not to exceed an increase of 8% over the next 3 years. We have to let them know by July 24. I am not in favor. I can't recommend this right now. I think it's important that we encourage this new municipal group to write insurance for municipalities. Again, whether we go with them or not, I just don't want to lock us into a program. And this group that I went to last Friday, to the study group, there were 18 communities there, and none of them are seeing an increase over 8% because they think Primex is trying to keep their business. So they're not sure that even if we did enter into the cap, that our rate increase would be more than that. We haven't had an inordinate amount of workers' comp losses this year, so I'm pretty confident that our rate should not increase exponentially. That's not to say, I mean, I'm not the actuary for Primex, so I don't know what, but I think it's premature to enter into a 3-year program knowing that this other group is getting ready to write workers' comp. And I don't know what it'll look like in the future. I would like to see this new group form, and they're forming for workers' comp first, and it might be that Wakefield goes to the new group for workers' comp and unemployment and goes to Primex for property liability. Travelers hasn't turned out to be the price that we thought it was going to be. We're already $7,000 over on our insurance line because the deductibles are so much higher for lawsuits. They honor the $1,000 deductible for motor vehicle accidents and losses, but they've got a higher deductible. I believe it's $5,000 and some of their other things. And so we're already $7,000 over on the insurance line, and I'm not sure that when we decided to go with Travelers, that wasn't about what we were going to say.
So you recommend we don't do this?
I recommend that we hold off on this as long as humanly possible. If we can get them to extend it, the deadline for us, I'm all about that. But even if they won't extend the deadline, I'd hate to lock us into a 3-year contract with somebody when the market is still changing.
The problem I have with it is locking future boards into this decision.
Right.
We'll be tied to this for 3 years, and I don't think it's in the best interest of this board to do that.
Okay, so we just, I'll take your advice.
I'll try to get an extension, so we at least have this budget cycle to work through before we have to make a drop-dead decision on it. But, well, I got appointed to the study committee. I think I left to go to the restroom and somebody nominated me.
Okay. All right, very good. Public comment? Go ahead, Liz.
You may be interested that GWRC is going to be contacting you about the fact that we really need electric doors on our bottom western entrance door and the dining room door.
Susan Goddard talked to me about that this morning when I was down there.
Fellow women would have fallen, and not people would have kept them from falling. And all you need is one lawsuit, and the quote we have so far for a double electric door,
Yep.
outside door and dining room, is $3,500.
Expensive.
It seems very low compared to the lawsuit.
A lawsuit, correct.
And as soon as we get another quote, we'll be back into asking to pay for the doors.
Okay. Anybody else, Freddie?
I have a question. That Public Works Mutual Aid Program that the town is now involved in, how do you get out? If you decided that you didn't want to do it anymore, how would you get out of that?
And vote to get out of it.
Yeah, just probably just not sign up for it the following year, I guess.
Okay.
Well, it's probably something that gets every year, you get your name on a piece of paper and probably not really.
Actually, you wouldn't even have to get out of it. You just never
Respond.
avail yourself of it.
Okay.
There's no cost, there's no
So there's no
skin in the
problem.
game unless you need it or they need something from you.
And it's only good as if you go, you know, if they call you and you say you'll get it and need it. And I think they could have done that without being part of this, you know, to be honest with you, but
Thank you.
you're welcome. All right, we'll move on. We got the administrator update? No. Yeah, I don't have that until the third one down. I have the administrator update first. You don't. Town administrator, go ahead, Joe.
Okay, so the Dollar General, the second suit is slated for court on August 21st, 2017 at 1 p.m. That's just for your info.
Thank you.
And I already told you I was appointed to the study committee for the Meeting Count Plus group. I have worked on some changes to the personnel policies that we had talked about earlier. I'm going to distribute a draft copy for the Board of Selectmen's review. Nothing that we have to decide tonight, but it'll give you guys some time to review them and, you know, ask questions or have you get cost figures if you think there's going to be any cost associated with those changes.
As for Toni, it's reading texts, right? And you always say on notes it's something good to read.
Or not.
Oh, no.
And there's those. Department heads meeting, I'm having my second department heads meeting next Thursday at 4:30 p.m. here. If the board, if two or more of you want to, one or more of you want to come, I just have to post it as a selectmen's meeting. So if only one of you is coming, that's fine, I don't have to post that, but if you just let me know in advance so I can post it properly. It is not open to the public unless it's a form of the board.
When did you say it was?
Thursday, July 20th at 4:30 p.m.
Well,
Mr. Fitz?
I want to move it around so that Chief Mason can attend some because he can't get back to town during the
at
day.
what time?
4:30.
Oh, that's a good time, I like that. Because otherwise I won't be able to make it.
Okay.
So I wanted to talk to you about the 2010 Ford Crown Vic. The chief wants to get rid of that, put it out for bid. I just wanted to make sure that you guys were okay with selling that. They don't need it anymore.
Is it worthy of exchanging it for something that we already have that's on its way out?
I don't think he did that. I mean, we just bought the new cruiser. You would have had to make
No, I'm
that.
saying like for the building department, the SUV, is that time to go or is it
I
all
am
junk?
not the person you want to ask about vehicles.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave it up to that.
Do you want to run that by Lee to see if
We'll leave it up to them.
Sergeant Fenton might be able to add something?
Yeah, car 7 is done.
All
Yeah, it's not worth it. Just trade it in.
right, you're right.
Put it out to bid and
No.
see what we get for it? Okay. Wage and salary survey. So this is something that's come up and reared its delightful head during performance reviews. As part of the budget process, I would like to conduct a comprehensive wage and salary survey, including compensation, the total compensation package, health insurance, time off, the whole shebang. So I prepared the form that I'm going to send out to the towns, and these are the towns I would like to include in the study. it is, the ones highlighted in yellows are towns that you've included before. I have left out some towns you included before. So basically my methodology for choosing the towns was based on population first, and then some geographically attractive towns that we would pull from in the case of recruiting new employees. So for example, Auburn is about the same size as we are, Alton is about the same size as we are, and has a similar summer population to us. Brookline is about our size, Farmington is geographically near us, Guilford, a little bigger than us, but again, geographically near us, Laconia. Normally I wouldn't include something that large, but they're also pretty close. Loudon, Meredith.
I could say the only problem that I have with some of these is these towns, to me, don't compare with that. I mean, Moultonborough, to me, is not that we're a lower town, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, I mean, these are big money towns. I don't know if we consider ourselves that as much. Did we include these ones that you had?
The ones that are yellow, Tuftonboro, Oski, New London, Moultonborough, Meredith, Guilford, and Alton were all included. As well as the ones at the bottom, Campton, Lincoln, Newbury, Plymouth, and Waterville Valley. I don't see any reason to include Waterville Valley. With 247 people, I'm not even sure their police and fire departments are full-time. I think it's ridiculous. Campton, too far away, too small. Lincoln, I think he used Lincoln because Lincoln did this original study. But again, too far away.
Right.
I included these, again, because of population and proximity. And I included 17 because I think the idea is that 2 or 3 won't respond. And then my methodology when I do these wages, and I've done a few of these in my career, is to throw out the high and the low, because those are outliers, and then come up with a median. It's not my supposition that we should pay what Moultonborough pays or what Wolfboro paid, but I think it's incumbent on us to include places where if our fire department guys are going to leave, where are they going to go? They might get a job in Rochester, they might get a job in Wolfboro. So try to include some of these towns that we're going to be in direct competition for. And again, this is a study,
It seems to happen
starting
just
point.
as you say it.
And if there's other towns, we have in the past included Conway, Dover, Hooksett, Londonderry, and Manchester as well, and I just don't see, I understand that police officers sometimes go to Manchester or Londonderry because they want more action or more money, or they want to be a detective or a accident reconstruction person at these places, and they have more business, that's the right word, more calls. But Manchester is 109,000 people. We're never going to compete with Manchester, and I don't think we want to even try.
You've done it right.
Should you get all of these, or just the highlighted ones?
No, I'm going to send it to all of those, and hopefully I get 13 out of 17 or 14 out of 17 respond, and we get a good. And if for some reason I send the request to 17 and only 10 answer, then we can add more towns to the mix and try to get a bigger pool.
So are you going to send to Conway, Dover?
No.
No, I don't think
Oh.
you need to.
Okay, good
Sit
job.
down, Ron.
So that's where I'm going to start, if that's okay with you. I just
Yep.
wanted to let you know, I don't know how long it's going to take me to put all this together, but it's part of what I'm doing for the budget, because I think we have to know where we're going.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, another consideration in that, when you get in a similar population and fairly close distance, if the town has a full education system through kindergarten through 12, or if it's just a middle school and an elementary school, if you keep them all at the elementary school level only, or all at the high school level, because different people have different reactions depending on what they're paying for in that town or
Okay.
Okay.
No, which we just go.
And then I just wanted to let you know that I spoke to Mr. Wesson, who owns the food center, about the parking, and he and I are gonna work together and see what we can figure out.
Yeah, it went viral.
Well, yeah, and I think he was more upset about it when he called than when he got off the phone, because we're just trying, we have the same customers, basically. It's the residents of town who are trying to access our building and access his store. So we're just gonna try to work it out and figure out how to make a little more parking in our parking lot for people who want to access the lower part of the building. And he seemed open to that. And we're gonna check back in a couple of weeks and see where we are. And then I was tasked with getting landscaping quotes for Spinny Meeting House in East Wakefield, the former East Wakefield School, which I have passed along to the Heritage Commission. I just wanted to let you guys know that I did that. The East Wakefield School would be $700 as a one-time cleanup. That would include spring cleanup, mowing, and hauling away the debris for $700, and then it would be $55 per mow trim. And then the Spitty Meeting House was $300 for the spring cleanup and mowing and trimming, and then $60 per mow trim. And I believe the Heritage Commission thought that was too high, and they were going to try to access some other prices. But that is from our landscaper that has our contract this year. And that is all I have. Sorry, it was kind of a lot.
Ms. Toni Bodah, do we have any building permit releases?
Not, sir.
We have a petition poll license. And I can never figure these things out.
It looks like it's going on Brackett Road.
Yeah, I was gonna say 385/40, map 45, or lot 385, map 45, I ain't sure how to read it, but it's from Brackett Road. Do I have a motion to accept the full license?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Manifest. I have a treasurer's warrant, and this is a good one, for $756,121.12.
Say that number again?
$756,121.12. Must be school payment time.
Yeah.
So, would you like a few minutes to look at what you're looking at?
No, we can go with that.
Okay, do I have a motion on the table to
Go with
accept?
that.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Connie, you gotta sign this 4 more times.
Well,
It's stamped rolling.
yes.
Okay.
Trying to do a better job.
Here is the treasurer's warrant also for the $700,000. Need your signature. Okay, we got board minutes for June 28th and July 3rd. Does those dates include that 3 o'clock one? Because I want to separate it because I wasn't there.
Yeah, I have the sealed one here.
The July
So
3rd one.
This July 3rd is, which was sealed.
Is the sealed.
Separate, and I've already put your name on it that you were absent.
Okay, so, let's do the July, June 28th one. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes for June 28th?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. As for the July 3rd, do I have a motion to accept the non-public, July 3rd minutes?
So moved.
Second, Connie?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain due to the fact I wasn't there.
Okay. Did you want to look at this one?
No, I'd like seeing
Okay.
some of
Selectmen's work session, I'll just give you a little update on what's happening down in the public safety building. The plumbing is either done or it's about to be finished. The insulators are due to arrive the first week of the month. And the sprinkler company is doing the design for the layout of it as we speak, and they should be arriving around the 17th. So,
Moving right along.
so they should be done. So I'm thinking, I'm looking for September or the end of September to be pretty close to.
Can you get me a list of your painting contractors so I can send them the interior?
Yeah, I only mentioned that last time, and I told you I would, but I got thinking about it. It's hard to work for municipalities because you're gonna want all them workman comp things, and these guys don't have that. That with me.
Okay, I found 5 that are local in
It's hard to get back.
Wolfboro Falls, a couple in Wakefield, and so I found them in the phone book. I sent it to 5, and then we put it in the paper. Do you think that's gonna be enough?
Yeah, I think so. And you sent it to them.
I
Yeah,
mailed it
that's the
to
big
them.
thing. I don't think people are noticing. That's why I'm having such a hard time. I have to call them to tell them, look at this, look at this, look at that, and whatever, to get people to even respond.
No, I mailed them the bid packet,
Good.
and then we have it on the website as well if they want to. And if they want to come look at the project, I'm happy to do that too.
Oh, good. Tony, I have this here, says July 3rd.
Yeah, that's what you can't sign.
Okay, and my name's crossed out on this one. Is that the same spot?
That's the same reason.
I can't do these.
No, I see that.
From all your things. Anything else you guys want to add?
To the minutes?
No, just to the Selectmen work session, just
Yeah, I'd like to apologize to the town administrator. I was not aware that you wanted to be the alternate for the Stratford Planning Board. Ralph,
If Rob wants to do it,
would you be okay to swap positions with the town administrator as the alternate for the Stratford Board?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Oh, wait a minute. Who's gonna be in charge?
I'll arm
Well,
wrestle
Steve
you.
is.
I'll arm wrestle you for it.
So I make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
I will accept that as, and I will second that. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, this is.
Oh, let's go to Steve smoking.
That's probably,
Is that what I had to tell?
Yeah, please. Thank you, Ralph.
Have a nice one.
See what comes back. I'm going to leave it until you make sure you have a signed copy. I just didn't see a flag on this. What do they need to do with this?
Okay, it looks to me like we have no reason to go into non-public. I want to thank everybody for coming. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All
Let's go.
opposed?
Let's go.
No opposers?
No opposed.
Has everybody signed
Thanks for
that?
coming.
Charlie, has everybody signed that?
This-